Okay, thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, Asia, and good morning, everybody joining from Europe with breakfast and coffee in their hands. Midnight for some of the people in the US, in case you are joining. We're looking forward to an exciting session about can Asia lead the way to zero emissions freight? And the reason why I'm very excited, because I think a lot of innovation and development is happening in Asia, but these are often overlooked. I would like to introduce to you a session of 1 hour and 20 minutes. My name is Sophie Punte. I'm the Executive Director of the Smart Freight Center, a global non-profit organization dedicated to zero emissions freight. And the reason why I've been asked to chair this session has also to do with the fact that I lived for 10 years in Asia, working with the UN in Bangkok and then with Clean Air Asia in Manila. And because of that, in that role, I've helped bring the green freight agenda higher up in both at both political level and at the business level in Asia, and then moved to the Netherlands to look at this from a global perspective. But this session is really about our panelists, who I would like to introduce to you. From left to right, we have Ms. Glinda Batan, Deputy Executive Director of Clean Air Asia. Then we have Rajan Chedambat, the Head of International Projections from CHED, from Kochi Municipal Corporation, which is a city in India. Then we have Ricky Jin, Category Land Deputy Manager from IKEA China, who's working on making logistics more sustainable in China. And then we have Mr. Jai Shihun. He's the founder and CEO of G7, an exciting new platform to make freight move more efficiently and have fuller trucks across China. And finally, we have Rajiv Isse, Chief Operating Officer of Avan India and a pioneer in the field of electric freight vehicles in India. So very exciting panel. And then I would like to have the next slide to show you this session. So today's webinar is hosted by SLOCAT, the Partnership on Sustainable Low Carbon Transport, and the International Transport Forum as part of the Race to Zero dialogues. And Race to Zero is part of the UN efforts to draw attention to the fact that we need to speed up our efforts to get to zero. It is really become a race. It's a matter of a decade, not anymore many, many decades. We need to be faster. And Asia's prominent role in this development, we cannot save the world without Asia's help. Today's seminar I will give a brief introduction about the status of play for freight, including in Asia. Then we will move to panelist insights. Each panelist will provide their insights in about 3 slides. And then we will open the audience for questions, and we will have a discussion with the panelists about how we can scale up efforts in Asia to zero emissions. And finally, I will summarize the main points and close. So let's get started. Next, please. What you can see here is it is urgent. We see that the emissions from freight transportations at the moment are almost 3 billion tons of CO2 a year. That was in 2015. If we're looking at 2050, this amount is going to more than double. And the reason is because the demand for freight transportation is growing and growing. Road freight is the biggest contributor with 62% today, but sea is the fastest growing, 27% today and 34% in the future. And it's very urgent, but it's even more so in Asia. For example, 1 out of every 2 trucks is being sold in Asia right now. Asia is the fastest growing in its emissions from freight compared to other continents. And that is understandable because Asia is, of course, developing economically very fast as well. Next, please. I'm very grateful for Ariadna Abdel from UNESCAP for a slide around that shows the dependency of freight transport on fossil fuel. On the left, you see passenger transport. On the right, you see freight. And what is clear, that when we look at the activity, namely the ton or the kilometers traveled and the volume, then we see that shipping by sea is the biggest contributor. But the moment we start looking at which freight mode uses the most energy and generates the most transport CO2 emissions, we see that heavy duty vehicles is by far the biggest of all. And therefore, if we are looking at from a climate and pollution perspective, it leaves no doubt that while we need to look at all modes, it is the road freight road freight transport that needs to be looked at more closely than others. Next, please. So there are solutions. So there's good news, and there's 5 types. You can, from the left to the right, if you are, what we're really trying to do is to see, do we really need freight growth? Do we really need to transport goods? Can we restructure our supply chain, localize production closer to where the customers are, make use of 3D printing, or get consumers to wait another day for their goods so that we can get fuller trucks going to their doorstep? We can use alternative modes by looking to move truck transportation to rail, short sea, or of course, in any case, move air transportation to land. We can use cargo bikes in city, but I think a really important measure for Asia is going to be the optimization of modes. So trying to make sure that the modes are better connected with each other, because then companies are more likely going to use a combination of rail and road and shipping. Third is using fleets and assets to the max, optimizing loads, consolidating it, but also having packaging that stacks better so the trucks can get fuller. Then there's fleets and energy efficiency. So here we're looking at better tires, aerodynamics, high capacity vehicles, but also driver behavior and training that we'll talk about later. And finally, we can look at lowering the emissions intensity of the fuels we use. And that's when, for example, we're looking at renewable electricity or green hydrogen. And we'll hear more about that later. So the good news is we can do it if we put all our efforts into implementing these 5 solution types. Next, please. I don't want to go through all of these, but I know that people are always looking for publications to get started. We have the Outlook of ITF, we have Alan McKinnon's book, we have a roadmap to go to zero emissions, an overview of green freight programs, a methodology to calculate emissions, a methodology to set targets, assessments for national freight for China, Philippines, and Vietnam, a case study of India driver training, an overview of the low emissions fuels and vehicle solutions available for road freight, a fantastic study of electric logistics vehicles in Shenzhen, and today you can now download a new publication about carbon insetting. So rather than planting trees when you have too much emissions, there is an opportunity to instead invest that same money inside the freight sector and, for example, help getting companies to convert their diesel vans to electric vans so that they are helped financially to make that happen. All the links are included, and participants will be able to download this PowerPoint with the links on the SLOCAT and ITF websites. Next, please. And this is was my final slide. I would now like to move to the panelists' insight, because we're going to move a little bit more detail. Rajan Chedambat will be going more into urban freight and from a city or government perspective. Vicky Jin will be looking at what solutions they are applying as IKEA in China to reduce emissions. Rajiv Iser will be talking more about electric freight vehicles in India and how that's going. Linda Batan will focus more on the training that is being provided both to drivers and fleet managers in Asia. And Mrs. Chai Juhun will talk about freight exchange platforms, and because they're consolidating trucks into one platform, how they as a platform can help to decarbonize the trucking fleet. So with that, I would like to move to the first panelist. Next slide, please. Mr. Rajan Chedambat. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sophie. And first of all, I should thank the organizers for inviting us, the city of Kochi, to be part of this very important discourse. And it's very important for us because we are a coastal city, and half of our city is below almost on or below the sea level. And we are witnessing a lot of climate change impacts on the city. We have erratic monsoon. We are witnessing sea level rise, and all this really forces us. And there are heat islands being developed, and all this is forcing us to kind of look for alternatives like a sustainable way of living, or like fighting or mitigation strategies, or fighting climate change. So and why transport? So next slide, please. Next slides. Next slide. You can just change to the next slide. Yeah. So this is a little about the city, and then like we are sorry, just before this, like not yeah. So we are basically very the main kind of area of the city is like business economy, and like there is an emphasis on service sector as well, and then like construction, manufacturing, shipbuilding, transportation, and shipping and seafood, spice exports, chemical industries, information technology, and tourism. These are the major kind of industry or business economy that is like Kochi is having. So, and at one time we have this business economy, and one side we have this business economy, and the other side we have these issues of climate change, and transportation plays a key role, in both this, in business as well as in climate change, because for us, like most of its the emission is coming, GHG emission is coming from the transport sector after the construction sector. And we've been thinking about like a number of ways to address this, and that is one reason we have kind of sought the help of many international agencies, and now we have like international climate initiative, local international ICLE, international climate initiative, local environmental initiative, is working with us, and the project is called the Ecologistic project. So with the help of this project, we are trying to address these transport issues in the transport sector, especially the freight movement, and how we can really make it really more sustainable sort of a thing. And Kochi is a well-connected city where we have like three major national highways connected with this city, and we have two freight transport kind of corridors. One is the international container transshipment terminal, and the other one is the seaport airport road connecting the airport and seaport. And then we have a major waterway, and we have canal network, and then we have rail network, and we have one goods a railway station within the city limit. And of course, we have two airports. One is an international airport. The other one is like more of a passenger freight movement kind of an airport. And like in our kind of societies, like we don't really have the wherewithal or money or material to fight this kind of very minute details. But then with the support of like very international agencies, like right over here we have the Ecologistics project supported by ICLEI, and we are like trying to address this or trying to convert our urban freight into a low carbon kind of urban freight system, or we are preparing an action plan towards that, and that's what I'm going to really make going to talk about here. Yeah, next slide please. Next slide. Yeah, Sophie, you can also tell me how many minutes I should really take, like it's 5 minutes, or what is the time that I should
You
really
have
take?
about 10. I always add 3 slides because I know people talk a long time about each slide. So you're fine.
I was thinking that I only have 5 minutes or so. So anyway, like this slide is all about like the kind of GHG emission, like as transport, the transport sector contributes the major emission in the city, and it's going to be so for another 20 to 30 years. And we really have to kind of address this issue. And we are like kind of addressing this issue, and we are like planning a lot of intervention in transport sector. We have a sustainable urban transport project happening now, and under that project we are trying to modernize all our roads, and we are trying to kind of bring in electric vehicles into the city. We are trying to have drivers cooperative, so that like we will have less vehicle and more but they run more efficiently. And we are like trying to rejuvenate like our water transport system, introducing more water transport, because over a period of time we lost that water transport angle, and we just concentrated on surface transport. Now we are trying to bring that kind of water transport system back to the city. So in this context, like we have very seriously taken this freight movement, because we have been historically a trading city. We have been exporting spices throughout the world over the last 2000 years or so. And it used to be through water transport, but in the last 50 to 60 years, it was through the land transport. Like, it's only trucks and big freights that used to move all these goods. And now, like, they are the biggest polluter, and we cannot even control, because that they really kind of they are the synergy to our economy. They really move our economy, and we cannot say no to them. So, but we need to kind of ask them, like, request them to modernize their system, so that they emit less carbon, sort of a thing. So that's the ecologistic project. That's the ecologistic project that we are doing in the city. That's the basis of the project that we are doing in the city. And like we have done a lot of institutional reforms within the city. Like, as part of the ecologistics project, we have, like, a multi stakeholder working group formed, and with their support, like, we are addressing urban freight issues. For instance, like, the small shopkeepers would really like the truck or the freight to come in front of the shop, and they don't want the secondary thing, like, the last mile connectivity through other mode. And we are trying to communicate to them. We are trying to get them on board, telling them, like, you will have to kind of change to, like, the last mile connectivity to more sustainable kind of electrical vehicle, or some kind of other modes of transport. So they all are agreeing, like, in that way. Like, this local stakeholders group is really working and really helping us address. And then, like, again, shifting the market. Like, we have major markets within the city. So we are kind of planning to shift. We have already moved one market to the outskirts, and like, we are having negotiation. We are discussing with all these shopkeepers and traders to move most of these major kind of go downs outside the city, so that freights don't have to come within in the heart of the city. So this multi-stakeholders working group is really working, and they are showing a lot of results in that say. And the most important thing is that Kochi has set up a kind of Kochi Metropolitan Transport Authority. They would be really controlling the mobility part of the city. It was earlier, it was never a coordinated effort. Now we have a coordinating agency to ensure seamless mobility, and to kind of even like to have a timing of freight movement within the city, and all that sort of a thing. And then we have a command and control system as part of the smart cities project initiated by the government of India. We have a very robust command and control system within the city. So what I'm trying to say is that, like, we are having a lot of major technological shift as far as freight movements and transport is concerned in the city of Kochi. And then we've been working, as I said, like, towards moving towards, like, more sustainable modes of transport, and like, we have a 1 billion kind of euro supported by KfW, a German agency. We are revamping the water transport system within the city, within Kochi. Yeah, and I'll go into the next slide after this. Yes. Yeah. Well, like, and then, like, what are the major institutions that is within the city? We have, like, in the shipyard, we have, like, oil refinery, we have fertilizers and chemical factories, and, like, we are trying to kind of make their transport system more effective, more efficient. We are trying to kind of introduce, like, say, like, what do I say, like, well-connected, interlinked water network between this. We have two kind of ports over here. One is the old International Container Transit Terminal. The other one is DP port, operated by Dubai Port. And most of the ships, like, come to the International International Container Terminal ship. And from there, to take the vehicles, we used to use freights through the roadway to reach the other Dubai Port airport. So what we do now, like, we have introduced a lot of ro-ro vessels. That these ro-ro vessels are more efficient than they don't consume more crude oil or whatever, and they are less polluting, and they don't really congest the city. They don't congest the city roads. So these are the way we are really trying to kind of revamp and reintroduce our kind of urban transport system. And like we also have like proposing a kind of multimodal logistic hub. We have a railway, as I said, like goods railway station. From there, like we are trying to have like well-connected network, an efficient kind of transport network with the seaport and with the airport. And all these things are like happening with the support of the state government, and it's making a lot of change. And the recent studies said that like the GHG emission, the contribution of transport is really getting reduced. Even though we project that like another 20 to 30 years, like the transport would be the biggest contributor of the polluter of the system or polluter. I think like we are already making inroads, we are already making changes. And I think like over a period of time, like with all these kind of systems that we have introduced, we will be able to address this effective issue a little more effectively. I think with this, I think I should conclude my short little presentation over here. Thank you
Thank
all
you,
for
Dr.
listening.
Rajan. And I have, it's very interesting. Kochi is obviously a city on the coast. I believe, I understand that it's been trading for more than 2,000 years spices. So you are way ahead of the freight wave. I have one clarifying question. You have not mentioned the collaboration with companies. Does your city work at all with companies? Because we have a number of companies in this panel, maybe manufacturers of cars or others who are helping you with improving the freight in Kochi.
Yes, we have actually what happened, like we have discussed with this association of like big traders. And kind of with their help, like we've been having negotiation with like the companies, and the process is ongoing, and the state government has also come into play. And I think like and we have big transporters are already like in Kochi. We are negotiating with them, discussing with them, and this conversion happens with the support of them. So the process is already on. The city government, state government, and all these major agencies. Now we have KMTA, Kochi Metropolitan Transport Authority, and I think this process will reach into its logical conclusion sooner than later. I'm very sure about it. Like the process is on, very seriously on. Yeah.
But the message is clear. It's collaboration. You can't do it alone. And with that, I would like to move. Thank you very much again. With that, I'd like to move to Ricky Jin, Deputy Category Manager of IKEA in China. I'm very interested to hear, Ricky, your insights in what has IKEA done. And perhaps if in your explanation, you can also explain a little bit what help you got from other organizations, governments, and to make this happen. Where does collaboration come in? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Ricky Jin. I'm currently working as Deputy Category Manager of Category Land in IKEA. And my responsibility covers Asia Pacific, but our main battlefield is China. Yeah, and the responsibility of our Category Land is to purchase the capacities on tracking and intermodalities from our suppliers to DC, to port, and to our stores. Yeah. So today I would like to introduce you, share with you a little bit the sustainable logistics solutions of what we are doing now in IKEA China. Yeah. So next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. Actually, IKEA set up a very ambitious long-term goal that we targeted to reduce 15% of absolute emission starting from fiscal year 17 to fiscal year 13. And what does that mean? If we assume that the stores will expand, if we assume that our sales will grow rapidly, it means that till fiscal year 30, our transportation volume might be 4 to 5 times than it's of today. So meaning that per transport work, we have to reduce 70% at least. Transport work means tonne-kilometre emissions, meaning that for every single shipment we are handling, till the end of fiscal year 30, we have to reduce 70% of our total emissions. Of course, we believe there will be no one solution on that, and there will be also no magic on that to decarbonize the logistic industry, as well as the transportation's IKEA. So that's why we set up 3 directions. Next. The first one is rethink. We really need to rethink how to integrate innovations together with the circular economies, and how should we change our commercial approach to make this happen. And the second thing is reduce, meaning that how can we increase the efficiency, namely do more with less. Here we talk about, for example, network optimization. How can we optimize the network to minimize the mileage required on the transportation? How can we enhance the equipment utilization by putting the right equipment on the right flows and to load as much as possible into the equipment? And how can we address those technology innovations, for example, AI planning and AI dispatching? I believe Mr. Jai will talk a little bit more in his presentation as well, this part, yeah. The third direction is replace. Here we mainly talk about the utilization of alternative energies and the alternative solutions, namely intermodalities. Because of the time constraint, today I will only zoom into the direction 3, the alternative fuels and intermodalities. Yeah. Next, please. First, let me start with the alternative fuels. Yeah. Yes, it's coming. Yeah. So today, in China, actually, we are handling approximately 1,000 trucks a day with around 50,000 cubic meters. And among those 50,000 cubic meters, we are using 14% of alternative fuel. Yeah, they are mainly LNG, but also with small portion of biofuel and electronic heavy duty. Today, I would be very proud to share with you the journey we have for on the electronic heavy duty trucks. Yeah, actually the journey started 4 years ago. Well, we piloted our very first heavy duty truck in South China on the public roads with a valid license. Yeah. And we were basically the very first shipper piloting this. And I have to tell you the truth that the journey is indeed a tough journey because of the technology readiness and industry readiness, infrastructure readiness at that time. However, we didn't give up. The good news is if you can see this picture, we took this picture actually 4 months ago in IKEA DC in Shanghai. Finally, early this year, we had the charging station installed in IKEA own DC, and we started a kind of not called a project, but not a pilot, but a project of implementing EV heavy duty truck. Next, please. And our goal is not that ambitious, but I have to say also not a very small goal. Within 1 year, we aim to deploy 10 heavy-duty trucks on our DC import and export flows with approximately 20,000 shipments, and aim to reduce 24% of CO2 emission on that specific route. Next, please. Of course, it's just the starting point of our journey of exploring the alternative fuels. And the journey never stopped, actually. We have been actually exploring the hydrogen opportunities together with our local service providers, as well as Sinopec, to really see whether we have any opportunity to pilot and deploy some hydrogen heavy-duty trucks in China. Yeah, next. If we conclude a little bit the alternative fuel development in China, or let's put it like this, if we would like to successfully implement or enlarge the utilization of alternative fuel, I would put 3 keywords here: customization, optimization, and survival without subsidy. especially the last one, survive without subsidy. We, IKEA China, actually set up a very ambitious goal at the very beginning that we would like to achieve both, both the economical benefit plus the environmental benefit when we implement those alternative fuels. And the job becomes very tough if we set the goal like this, because normally for those new alternative fuel and the new stuffs, government will give subsidy, yeah? But we don't sleep on those subsidies. We work very closely with our service providers to customize the product. For example, the price of the heavy duty truck now in China is still much, much higher than the price of diesel truck. Then how do we deal with that? If we implement the heavy duty truck on those short distance flows, do we still need such a big cabin with 2 seats or 3 seats? The answer is probably not. Maybe we can optimize, customize a little bit even the type of the truck to reduce the price of the EV heavy duty truck. When it comes to the optimization, for example, we all know that the electricity price in China at night time much lower than it's of in the daytime. Yeah. Then how can we optimize the operational model to have the charging model fit with this electricity price? Is also something we need to look into so that make the total solution of EV heavy duty truck much more competitive. Yeah, so those are 3 keywords we would like to put here. Also for the hydrogen truck, for example, yeah, the price of hydrogen supply is very expensive at the moment because, for example, in Shanghai, we only have few number of charging stations there, yeah, fueling stations there. But now we are working with Sinopec together with our service providers to really look at where our capacity locates, where our density area is, and we pick one fueling station to reconstruct it, rebuild it, and to make it also a fueling station for the hydrogen trucks so that we avoid a detour to refuel the hydrogen, so we increase the efficiency of the transportation. Again, all in all, is to make the product survive without a government subsidy to enable broader utilization on the market, not only for IKEA. Yeah. Next, please. Next slide, we talk about intermodality development in China. Next. Here, we are very proud to share with you that today, within China, IKEA is having intermodality share 30%. And on the market level, according to our intelligence, it's approximately like 5% maximum. And this 30% is helping us to reduce 35% total CO2 emission on China level, which is really significant. And actually, the Chinese government, they started to really focus on intermodality development starting from 4 or 5 years ago. And they set up very high priority in the national strategies. And to really answer to the government's call, we also speeded up 3 years ago, the intermodality development in China. We doubled our intermodality share on water from 11% to 22%. And we also step up the very first step on the railway intermodality. Now we pushed up the figure from 0% to 8% on total China level. And adding this together, it helped us to reduce down the share of trucking from 89% to 70%, 19%. Yeah, next. And here I would like to give you a real example. How do we implement our intermodalities? Here you can see a map of South China, and the green dot stands for the Dongguan area, where we have quite many warehouses there, and the volume is approximately like 100 containers in and out every day. And for those dots in yellow, we have the Shekou port and the Yantian port. They are 2 mega ports, in South China, mainly handling the import and the export containers. So previously, before 2017, we were using the truck transporting the containers out from our warehouse to the ports. However, in 2017, we worked together with port authorities and our service providers, both land and warehouses. We developed this product and we converted the trucking to intermodality water, meaning that they customized a brand new product with a ship from our Dongguan port to those two mega ports, especially for IKEA, yeah, in 2017. And on this route, today we are handling over 20,000 40 high queues. And as I mentioned, it's not only the benefit on the environmental part, we also get a benefit on the transportation cost part. Comparing with trucking, this intermodality product gave us 8% saving on the cost, and which is significantly, what's significant is that it gives us 72% reduction on the CO2 emissions. Yeah, next please. So again, if I put the 3 keywords for the intermodality development, the first two are the same, customization and optimization. Like for the case I shared with you just now, before the development of this intermodality product, it's not existing on the market. And it requires, together with service providers and authorities, we customize the product. And in some of the cases, the product already exists on the market, but we don't simply pick and use. We optimize it to make it, as Sophie also mentioned in the beginning, to fit with our operation model and fit with our demand so that intermodality product can succeed. Yeah. The last one is also very important when it comes to intermodality, because normally if we talk about intermodality, it requires infrastructure. It requires external players. So collaboration is of crucial importance in this case. For example, in South China, we not only developed this route, but together with Hutchison Port, the very big port group globally, we formulated a strategical partnership with them. We define our needs and they give us the product lists, and together, internally and externally, we optimize the product, we customize the product. So that I can share with you that only in South China area, for all the export flows, we are now having 40% our tracking on intermodality, just through those close collaboration, yeah. Because of time limit, I can only share alternative fuel and intermodality today, but I do hope that this is just a starting of our interactions, and we can maybe talk more afterwards.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you, Vicky. This is very interesting, and we'd love to hear more. It's I almost need like just a lecture just from IKEA on everything you do. I have actually one question myself, and then one from the audience. So I'm just going to take that question as we get them in. Can you briefly explain how do you collaborate with shippers in China? And I'm aware that you work with us also on the Smart Freight Shippers Alliance. So maybe you can explain why you're doing that.
Yeah, actually collaboration among shippers are very, very important, especially in China, or maybe not specifically China, but those countries who would like to develop intermodality and those new stuffs. Why? Because in Europe and North America, if we talk about intermodality, it's a common solution with already economy of scales. But for example, in China, normally those are new cases and new products. And with new cases, new products, we need good examples from the market. Also, we need economy of scales to really increase the efficiency and reduce the cost, put the cost down, so that we can beat trucking. Yeah. In this case, if we only have IKEA or single player on the market, definitely the volume is not enough. We really want to have those players, those big shippers who share the same mission, same approach, same idea, together with IKEA and together with other shippers. And then we can aggregate our volumes together and we can share our experience together to really build up good examples, not only for us as a group, but also for the industry and for the market, or even for the country. Yeah.
Great.
So I would like to thank for Smart Freight, because under the leadership of Smart Freight in China, we formulated this kind of shipper alliance we call Smart Shipper Alliance. So we exactly, as I mentioned, would like to group those shippers who share the same value, mission, and approach, and also aggregate our volume together to customize, develop, and optimize those products, yeah, for the market.
Yeah, very good. And then a second question that came from the audience. Can you basically, which one is better for you right now, electric or hydrogen, and why?
Now, of course, if you talk about today, it's electronic vehicles, because we already have been piloting this electronic heavy duty for 4 years. And after all the optimizations within and within our supply chain and externally with our service providers, now we are proud to say that the unit cost, if we switch our truck to EV heavy duty truck on specific flows, are even now lower than the diesel truck. Yeah. But with hydrogen, as I mentioned, we just started the journey. Still at this moment, the unit price is much higher than the diesel truck. We need to find our way out. But we do believe maybe within 1 year or after 1 year, we will find a solution.
Very good. So the measure take here
EV.
is, yeah, it's short term EV in urban, longer term EV hydrogen for heavy duty. And I think that's a lot of things. That's what many companies are working on. What can we do today, and what do we need to plan for tomorrow?
Yeah, and a very important thing is also, as I mentioned, it's kind of a portfolio. They fit with different scenarios, different flows. Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Thank you very much, Vicky. Really appreciate it. Very insightful. And on the topic of electric vehicles, let's move straight away to Rajiv Isar, from Chief Operating Officer from Avan, India. Rajiv, well, I hope you can do it in 9 minutes, because we are now stretching a little bit into the time. So floor is yours.
Problem.
Thank you.
Yeah, 9 minutes is quite a ample time that can be done. Yeah, thank you. Okay, hi everyone. Good morning, good afternoon to whoever are the other part of the country or the world. So first of all, thank you very much, Sophie, for collaborating this particular Race to Zero dialogue and bringing in the right, I would say, stakeholders, because this is what is important, especially in revolutionizing the electric mobility. The right stakeholders must come together and then make right decisions and discussions so that the ecosystem is encouraged. So to introduce, I'm Rajiv Isar. I work as the Chief Operating Officer for Avan India. Avan India has got multiple businesses, of which the prime business is we take care of the last mile deliveries through electric vehicles. The whole journey started in 2018 when IKEA was in India and started its operations from Hyderabad. And IKEA was, of course, Ricky would agree with me, was part of the EV100 campaign, which means that by 2030, all their mobility services must be converted to electric. And at the time, we were part of Avan, earlier the subsidiary of Gati. So Gati was the last mile delivery partner for IKEA in India. And we had an obligation to honor our customers' request of moving towards electric mobility deliveries. And that is how the whole journey began in the year 2018 in the month of July. It's almost 2 years plus, but then the progress that we were able to make and then the ripples that we were able to create in the market was phenomenal. Earlier, when it comes to electric mobility, the discussions, the frameworks, the policies were only limited to the passenger vehicles and then the electric buses. But with collaboration with IKEA and the kind of the good news that we have spread by delivering the products through electric vehicles, we were able to get the attention of the India's biggest think tank, that is NITI Aayog, where we have partnered to work along with the Rocky Mountain Institute and the NITI Aayog in framing multiple policies of different states, whether it is for Delhi electrical vehicle policy, or for Telangana EV policy, or even for the FAMES 2.0. So I think that's the contest to begin with, and I'm here to share and assure that yes, Asia is on the right track towards zero transport, and India plays a very significant and also a very leadership role in this complete journey. Next slide, please. Now, let me give you a little bit context, to whatever I have said so far in terms of the Indian automotive market, right? Definitely from the passenger perspective, we are the 4th largest market in the world, and from tractors perspective, we are the first, and from two-wheelers perspective also we are first. But then majority of action, interestingly, is happening not necessarily in the passenger movement, but in the freight movement. Now, this slide is only to tell you that auto industry has been the focus of the government from the beginning, and it would continue to remain as the focus of the government. And with the recent developments that have happened across the different policies and different principles of the government in the automotive industry, the electric mobility is going to be the new darling, right? Let's move on. Yeah. Now, while that is, I mean, there are reasons why the electric mobility or the electric vehicle industry has become the new darling, because while India is shining and while India is really growing in terms of economy, but there are certain problems which cannot be ignored, right? Of course, during the pandemic, the numbers have changed, but then in general, 14 out of 15 most polluted cities in the world are in India. And the 2.5 particulate matter by which you measure the air pollution, while the World Health Organization says it is 10 milligrams per cubic meter as the best benchmark, whereas in India, in a city like Kanpur, it is at around 170 milligrams per cubic meter. Now, when you look into details, while we cannot afford to slow down on our industrialization and on our factories and production, the low-hanging fruit which can be handled is the transport sector, because 30% of this air pollution is generated or contributed by this transport sector. In addition to this, while these are all the facts and figures of how the life has been here, but we also have an obligation, because as per the UNFCCC treaty in Paris, we have signed that by 2030, we will bring down the carbon emissions by 33% to the numbers registered in 2005, right? So, I mean, this is like, I mean, as the years go by, the industrialization, the emissions would only increase, but then the targets that we are treating we are chasing are completely contrary. So, fortunately, India doesn't have a choice but to go towards electric mobility revolution because of multiple, right, geographical, political, and right internal reasons. And at this point of time, we are at the cusp of that particular revolution where we are going to see the results very soon. Let's move on. Right. So obviously, electric mobility becomes the inevident and obvious choice for India because number one, it definitely battles the biggest enemy, that is pollution. And our dependency on oil imports is also high, and that would come down. And it is an opportunity. Now, next after to my friend Ricky Jain, as he was saying, there are so many, I would say, progressions, and there were so many developments that are happening in our neighboring country, that is in China. If at all there is any other country which can complement and at the same time compete in terms of technology, in terms of development, and collaborate for a better world for all of us to live, definitely India, which is the neighbor of China, cannot be ignored. And this also gives an opportunity for India to emerge as a market leader, not necessarily in the IT and the services industry, but also in the electric mobility technology. Now let's move on. Now, having said these particular things, this slide is only to show you how the world has handled it so far. Especially, I would like to bring the focus, though the details are of electric passenger vehicles, but then there is a shadow or reflection of the complete electric mobility vehicle segments, right? You see, unfortunately, India hasn't yet made significant numbers to be there on that mark, but then I'm very sure in the coming years, as we are driving this EV revolution upfront, we will very soon be there. If you look at the progress from 2014 to 2018, Look at how our neighbor China has started just at 0.1 million sales, and right now it is at 2.3 million sales. And then the penetration is not even right 10% of the complete sales. When it is compared with the nations like Norway, where the numbers are very limited, but then the penetration is almost 40%. Definitely to add to these numbers and to reduce the different costs in the electric mobility revolution, the volumes needs to add up, and then I can only see that the volume addition can only come from a market like India. Let's move on, please. Yeah, one slide back. One slide back. I'm sorry. Now let me also give you from the freight perspective. Let me give you from the freight perspective. Now, out of 30 million vehicles approximately manufactured and sold in India, around 1% of those vehicles are three-wheelers and 1% of vehicles are commercial vehicles. That means both of them put together are only roughly around 2 million vehicles. The beauty here is, in India at this point of time, what's happening? The reason why I said that the freight is the low-hanging fruit, because the cost parity for the passenger vehicles is yet to be arrived in India. For example, the difference between a conventional fuel product and an electric mobile product, the difference is still more than 70–80%. Whereas the cost parity was achieved, especially in three-wheeler segment, right? That is one positive from a point from the product development perspective. Now let us look at the market, how it is evolving. The e-commerce market is literally frothing, bubbling and booming in India, especially during the pandemic. There were more number of customers who have opted for e-commerce deliveries, even for their groceries and other things, right? Now, with the e-commerce market increasing and with the recent investment of Microsoft's, Google's into the infrastructure through Jio, right, for the broadband infrastructure to Jio, the internet facilities is only going to penetrate and even get stronger into tier 2, tier 3 cities, not just limited to metros. So this infrastructure is actually paving the way for the e-commerce giants to right, almost get into the every nook and corner of the city. Now, when this happens, right, the biggest contributor for both the cost and pollution in the complete e-commerce and logistics industry is the last mile delivery. Now, when it comes to last mile delivery, now I've told you from the product perspective, in terms of three-wheeler cargo, we are already there. And from the market perspective, we are almost there. I mean, the demand for the cargo vehicles is going to increase because of the rise in the e-commerce deliveries. And then the last mile deliveries, the next lowest hanging fruit is the LCVs, right? The light commercial vehicles. So it is still many years for India to adopt the HCVs, unlike our neighbor China. But in India right now, the market is quite ripe for three-wheeler cargos and for four-wheelers LCVs to the tunes of Tata Ace, Mahindra Jito, and those, to name few. And I know for sure through insider reports that most of these players already have their beta versions available in electric mobility, but just that they are waiting for the right move from the government to push them, because they're still battling with the priorities of BS6 and electric mobility. So I think with this whole thing, I'm very confident in saying that Asia is the next epic center for the electric mobility revolution, and India would give a very tough competition, at the same time would strongly collaborate in this particular movement with our, not only with our neighbor China, but to the rest of the world, because the prices have to come down. If the prices have to come down, the volumes have to increase. And in terms of freight, we are already there, especially from last mile delivery perspective. We were able to achieve the price parity in three-wheeler cargos, and we are not very months away from the four-wheeler cargo. I'm sure we will soon be there. And in terms of the middle mile or the line haul, I think we are still 5–6 years away from actual 8-tonners, 10-tonners getting converted into electric. But from the low-hanging fruit, I think we are there. The government has also given the right incentives through its FAMES 2.0 policy. And I think we are all there, and it is time. These are interesting times and exciting times to see and watch out how the whole thing is evolving, and how India is going to play a leading role in the complete electric mobility revolution. With
Fantastic.
This, thank you very much, Sophie, and the rest of the panelists. It was great listening to you, and it was great to participate with you. I feel very much honored and privileged to be here. Open to questions.
Yeah. Thank you, Rajiv. You're energized like an electric vehicle, I can say that. I have noted cost comparability is a factor. E-commerce is booming. You didn't mention it explicitly, but of course, electric vehicles moves the pollution at least away from inside India to outside. Can you just name, what is, if you were Santa Claus and you could wish one thing, what is it that you need to make electric trucking go to scale in India? What is the one thing? Is it money? Is it government policy? Is it multinationals like IKEA asking more? What is it? What is the one thing? Only one.
I think that one thing is pull from customers like IKEA. I need Amazons, Flipkarts of the world also to take a similar stand like IKEA. I think that is when the demand is generated and then the rest of the thing rolls.
Excellent. I like that. And the reason, and I agree with you, because if there's a few leading companies who take charge, governments feel confident to put in policy to support its growth, and manufacturers will follow because there's demand. Customer demand is really leading. Thank you for that. We're going to move on to the next speaker, and that is Glinda Batan from the Clean Air Asia, my former colleague, and very nice to see you again, Glinda. And I would like to give the floor to you to talk a little bit about what's happening in Asia on eco-driving and fleet manager training. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sophie. And if we could go to my first slide, please, Nicola. I should also say that I'm Deputy Executive Director of Clean Air Asia, but also I'm an independent board member of SLOCAT, of the SLOCAT Partnership. So here in my first slide, I'd like to focus on the work that we are doing in Indonesia. For the past 5 years, we've been helping to usher in the widespread adoption of cost-effective emissions reduction strategies, primarily through improved eco-driving practices in Indonesia. And so this was launched in 2015, and our motivation for this is really to contribute 7% drop in fuel consumption for vehicles with petrol engines and 8 to 10% drop for those with diesel engines. In institutionalizing eco-driving, we have worked closely with partners, institutionalizing eco-driving in the capital, in Jakarta. And right now, eco-driving is included in Jakarta's transport agency's post-licensing requirements for commercial drivers in the city, requiring drivers to undertake eco-driving training. And Jakarta has also stipulated the use of the eco-driving modules and curriculum that we help develop as part of the program. In addition, we have also succeeded in integrating eco-driving into the Indonesian National Work Competency Standards to be met by commercial drivers. And we have conducted trainings for Transjakarta drivers, so this is the bus rapid transit system in Jakarta, state-owned bus operators, garbage truck drivers, school buses, tow trucks, and facilitated eco-driving workshops for trainers from driving schools, government agencies, and commercial fleets. According to the Jakarta Transport Agency, 2,750 drivers have been certified in eco-driving in 2019, and they target 6,750 drivers by 2022. Now, this is at the provincial or at the Jakarta level. We are also working with Korlantas to ensure, this is a national agency, to ensure the program sustainability through institutionalization of eco-driving at the national level as a pre-licensing requirement through a revision of their norms, standards, procedures, and criteria of competence-based driving. In my next slide, Nicola, please, the next slide, please. Thank you. We move to the work, a description of the China Green Freight Program. Now, this China Green Freight Program really began with a demonstration project which Sophie and the team worked on in Dong, and it has grown to become the China Green Freight Initiative, which was launched in April 2012. So this is really a platform aiming to promote green and sustainable development of the freight industry in China. I focus here on the Mr. Trucker campaign, which aims to improve the skills in eco-driving of Chinese truck drivers. So apart from training of a few key drivers, the campaign also designed offline trainings and online manuals. And our experience from the pilot demonstration shows that truck drivers can reduce fuel consumption by 7.4% on average. And the online materials have actually reached about 800,000 truck drivers in China. And in my next slide, the next slide actually speaks about the Smart Freight Center Fleet Managers Training. Yes, the Smart Transport Managers Training. And this is a training that is conducted by the Smart Freight Center. So the training course is for truck fleet managers, and the purpose is for them to identify technologies and measures, develop action plans, and monitor their fuel emissions and cost savings. So to date, more than 80 fleet managers and more than 50 carriers have been trained in China and 170 plus worldwide. And the experience has shown that more than 5% fuel savings can be gained in the first year. So this is truly an effective way for shippers to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and also to reduce air pollution from their subcontracted carriers. And in my last slide, we speak of the global program to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from the freight sector. Next slide, please, which is my last slide, actually. So in this last slide, we have here the Global Green Freight Action Plan. So this is a United Nations-led coalition that supports the development of green freight programs worldwide. Now, as of 2020, 26 countries have a green freight program. And among the efforts of this program is that we help to expand driver and fleet manager training in countries around the world. So you can see here the different organizations that are members of or that support the Global Green Freight Action Plan. So we know there are trainings being conducted, for example, in Latin America and other parts of the world. So this is the end of my presentation, and I would like to thank Sophie and the Smart Freight Center and ITF for giving me the chance to share the freight programs that are happening in Asia. Thank you.
Yeah. Linda, it's very impressive what you're explaining. 800,000 truck drivers reach, because my question to you is going to be, how do we get to scale? Can you explain just in that particular case, how were you able to reach so many truck drivers? Did you have the support from the government, from associations, from radio stations? What was the secret?
Yeah, so for the China experience, what we did was, while we only trained 7 truck drivers, we realized that if we want to reach more of the truck drivers across China, we really need to use the social media and the internet to be able to spread the knowledge that was gained. And so what we did is that we developed online materials, including a trainee's documentary video and self-learning online manual, which at the moment has obtained 800,000 views. So this program was also reported by over 20 media outlets. And so this is one way of really expanding our reach. But I would say, though, that if we want to reach more and more people with eco-driving knowledge and expertise, I think the the Jakarta and the Indonesia experience, where where eco-driving is actually now required as a special competency requirement if you want to drive commercial truck fleets, is another way to go. And I think in many ways, Indonesia and Jakarta are leading in this effort in the region.
And then a question from the audience is around how do you make sure that eco-driving results are kept after the first training, right? Because you have, of course, a boost, you think it's great, you save a lot of percent, and then it goes down again. Is that being looked after either in Indonesia or China?
Yes, for Indonesia, our experience was the same. In the early versions of the pilot demonstrations, we saw that right after the training, we reached up to 27% fuel savings. And however, the interest would wane without any incentives. And so what if this were a company-wide program, what we would recommend, and which has been tested previously by a Swiss contact program, is that they would have monthly or a periodic award system that goes to that awards or rewards the drivers that have maintained their eco-driving skills. And the reward can be very basic, like I remember it's a basket of grocery goods, or just a recognition that you're the driver of the month. So these incentives do help to really ensure that the skills learned from the training are maintained.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm excited to see that by training truck drivers and transport managers, we can actually achieve something. And a message to all the shippers and companies around and governments: this is a way to really penetrate the sector. You can make it part of a condition for contracts, a condition for driver's license. So there are ways to take this to scale. It's not just theory; it's really happening. Thank you again, Glinda. I would like to move to the last but not least panelist, Ms. Jai Shu Hun, founder and CEO of G7 China. I was once explained that G7 operates like an airport. So imagine you have, but then a road port, right? So imagine you have your road ports in this case, and you don't own the trucks, but any trucking company can join. And it means that the smallest company can join, but also big ones. And those trucks are then shared by everyone, by customers, to move their freight. And by pooling all these trucking companies into one platform, it creates enormous flexibility and potential for efficiency improvements. So I'm very excited to hear from Mr. Jai to learn what is it that your company is doing to help to accelerate trucking decarbonization in China through your platform. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Sophia. Thank you, everybody. Actually, I'm very happy to join this seminar. And the G7 is an IoT platform for 10 years. And we focus on logistics industry to digitalize the industry for safety and efficiency. So for all of us, I want to share one shot of the G7 platform. Please, next page. Next slide, please. Okay, here's last, just yesterday, one shot of G7 platform data. This is real data on the platform. We can see the total trucks on the platform is just about 1.8 million trucks running our platform. Actually, maybe 1.8 million trucks on one platform is maybe this is the biggest platform connect trucks in the world. And we not only have the data about location, but we connect all different kind of data. For example, we know the truck load, truck weight, and the safety information, and the temperature and tire pressure, and and also very important is the data from engine about the energy consumption. So at last 5 years, we can see those over 1 million trucks averagely reduce the energy consumption about 10%, averagely 10% reduction, because we have the actual data about the energy consumption. The reason the people and the fleet and the driver can reduce the energy consumption is about the data, because we offer all of them the data about their driver behavior and their road and their weight and their condition of the trucks, so they can improve all those things, especially improve the driver behavior. So we can see the emission reduction year by year. It's very dramatic reduction. So this is the first page about my presentation is about how the big data, how the IoT service, how the IoT data can improve all the industry emissions. Second page, please. And this is another very interesting improvement. And it's also a real picture. And you can see this picture is not city. It's not a modern city. It's actually it's South China, Southwest China, and very near to Mongolia. And this is a station hub, the truck in and railway out. This station hub is for mainly raw materials. Averagely, every year is about 10 million tons transportation through this hub. And what we do is we just digitalize all this hub, especially digitalize the information in and out, so that we can let the truck drivers through this hub and handling within 5 minutes. You know, in the past, every truck driver probably in the rush hour, they will wait for over 6 hours for handling. But now, probably every time handling is just 5 minutes, because we just reduce all the manually handling, and because we link all the docs, we link all the upload and download data directly to the platform. Let the planner just can see all the information and just reduce all the waiting time from several hours to several minutes. So we see a very big improvement in this case. And I want to share you that in China, there are over 2 million trucks working for raw material transportation. And probably average waiting time for every trucks every day is over 4 or 6 hours. And we just plan to deploy those kind of IoT technology to all different kind of hubs and stations, and link the station and hub to one platform that let the logistics company can planning you can use the data to plan all the different kind of trucks to reduce the waiting time. This could be a huge improvement for all the trucking company. And the third, please, third page. And finally, this is what we have we want done in the future. Actually, 3 years ago, we just found a new company focused on autonomous driving trucks, and we will design and we will develop and operate the autonomous driving trucks in China. And the good news is at end of the next year, we will launch the L3 autonomous driving trucks to our customer, and we'll going to the road and going to real operation for over 10,000 trucks. We want to launch within 3 years. So that's what I want to see, share with you all. That's how we use the data, use the IoT service, and use the AI to change the whole industry. Thank you very much. Thank you, Sophia.
Thank you so much for this insightful presentation. And you know, I love data. I'm all about methodologies to calculate carbon and making sure data is available. Mr. Jai, I have one question. The access to data, right? The digitalization, it makes it efficient, drives efficiency, reduces cost. How important is it for your customers? And I'm, you know, assuming many of yours are big multinationals as well. How important are the data to your customers?
I just can share you one information. And 5 years ago in China, there are almost no company have over 1,000 trucks, because it's too hard to manage the driver and manage the trucks, and the cost is too high. But now there are plenty of companies have 10,000 trucks in China, and the very important reason is the technology, especially the digitalization, can help them to generate all the different data to manage a large quantum of the cargoes and trucks and the drivers, to reduce all the cost.
Fantastic. Yes. Thank you so much. I want to go to the next slide. I'm aware of time, and I'm so glad I only asked everybody for 3 slides. Otherwise, we would not have gone through this. I have one question for each of you. I want to start with Rajiv, actually. The burning question everybody has for India is, I believe it's the electricity generation is predominantly coal and some fossil fuel. Can you comment what needs to happen to make sure that when we get electric vehicles, we also they come from green energy?
Yeah, right. I think there has been enough debate even within the country that if the base of energy supply remains still coal, then what would be the net value addition? But then there are enough reports to say that despite the base being coal, there is still possibility that the impact on the carbon emissions is definitely significant and positive. While I made the statement, let me also back this up with the statement. Now the renewable energies in India is also picking up be it solar or be it wind. In fact, there are use cases. I would say these are pilot cases that are run in smaller cities and smaller pilot cases where the solar rooftops are used as battery charging, energy charging stations, and those are further used as charging stations to charge the vehicles, right? So these pilot projects are happening, but again, as long as the consumption is institutional. For example, the road transport corporations, which acquire buses of tens and hundreds of fleet, and they have the complete the vicinity surroundings under their control, then this is possible to install good solar plants and then make them as energy sources. As long as, again, not only government institutions, but also if Amazons and Flipkarts kind of open up their warehouses and then start deploying these things, it is possible. The answer to your question is, we are looking for alternatives fuels to charge the electric vehicles. That is number one. Nevertheless, number two, even with the existing coal, the net result is still positive. Number three, we need the institutional players to come forward and try these pilots, which are already happening in different parts of the country at this point of time.
Yeah. Yes, thank you very much. I'm going just looking at the organizer. Am I allowed to steal 5 minutes of the further? Because I'm so keen to get a few more questions out of the. I take it as a yes, because I know that I'm aware the next session starts in 10 minutes, so we have a little bit of a gap between. I have put four things down here: better data, supportive policy, financing, and collaboration between stakeholders. I would like each of you to make just one comment. What is the most important? Let's start with you, Dr. Rajan. For India, for Kochi to be successful, what are you going to need most to be as a next step?
I think we need all these 4 elements. First of all, we really need a policy support, because normally, like in our local governments and governments work on a firefighting mode, in the sense, like, they have priority on basic services. Like, our cities are still not equipped to kind of fight climate change, or like, zero carbon, all such big issues. Like, they are still fighting basic infrastructural issues. So, like, in that context, like when you talk about like green energy and e-mobility and all that sort of things, it really needs a policy kind of support. Policy support is very important, and policy support comes only when people prepare to kind of accept that. In the sense, like, it has to be the demand of the people to change the way we live. We will have to, there has to be a paradigm shift in the way we live. The way we kind of use our public services. So I think, like, it's very, very, very important that, like, policy comes, and this policy should come as a result of people's mandate or people's will, and that's very, very important. And then, of course, we need finance. Like, finance is very, very important, in the sense, like, even in Kochi, we are talking about like efficient freight system, bringing in an efficient freight system. But then we need to compensate the traders who are going to lose something even for a while, and all these operators, tech operators, and all these business establishments. We really need to have some system to compensate for the loss they are going to suffer for a short period. Even if it is not for the longer period they'll be really getting benefited. But short term, some kind of support should be there. So I think policy and finance, these 2 aspects are very, very important if you are really moving towards a sustainable future, I would say.
Yeah. And with that, I'd like to move to Vicky. Vicky, if you're looking at finance, right? Because I really see customers king. We've heard Rajiv say, the one thing he wants is customers to come. Do you believe multinationals like IKEA can play a role as customers of freight to not just be the buyer, but also to collaborate with carriers to help bridging this financing gap? Because obviously the carriers are going to need the capital to invest in electric vehicles and other measures. They can't do this alone. Can you help?
Yes, definitely. Actually, globally, we are doing this together with our service providers, collaborating with them together, or even we are creating business cases. How can we support them financially? But what's very important, as I also mentioned during my presentation, is that the ultimate goal is to make the product itself survival. Yeah. So the subsidy or the financial support only gives us a certain period of time or certain spaces for us to develop and optimize the product. At the end of the day, it has to be the product itself competitive. Yeah.
Yeah.
But definitely we do this together. Collaboration is really important in this case.
Yeah. And do you work already with a platform like G7? Because I could imagine collaborations emerging from this panel.
That's a very good question. Actually, we just started approaching G7, and we also would like to collaborate with them, utilizing their platform, collecting all the data. What's for us most important thing is to really dig out the goals from those data, and I believe together we can do something, and we can set a good example for the market.
Fantastic.
With
And then
G7,
I want to rope Glinda in. Glinda, do you see the potential if G7, for example, were to offer driver training to all the drivers that I counted 1.8 million? That's many more than you have reached. Do you see that as an opportunity?
I was going to say that in answer to your question, what is needed now? So I think there should be parallel efforts. You know, Indonesia is just the first to include eco-driving training in their driver competency requirements. So the rest of Southeast Asia and South Asia need to follow suit. But then now, what we're hearing from the different countries is that there is actually no established training institution for eco-driving training. And even some of the multinationals that would like to have their truckers be trained are looking for a training institution to do the work. So if a collaboration could arise from this session, that would absolutely be great.
Yeah, and I would like to add the transport managers, because we got drivers and you got the the fleet managers who organize everything. That training exists as well. So, Mr. Jai, what do you think of this offer? Everybody wants to work together. Do you think there's an opportunity? Could your platform be a vehicle to advance technologies and training? That's my question to you.
I would love to work with Celinda to do that, because I truly believe that if we can share the data together, nobody lose anything, but we have gained a lot of additional values. So I want to just make sure when we have time recently, we can work with Selena and work with Ricky to discuss how we can share the data by our platform, so we can improve the driver's behavior, we can improve the efficiency of the fleet manager, and we can improve all those of things. So very exciting to have the opportunity to do that.
Fantastic. And then of course, we're talking about Asia, so it's more than China and India, but where's the opportunity for replication? So perhaps, Rajiv, maybe you want to comment. Are there similar platforms like G7? I recall Freight Bazaar in the past, I'm not sure if it still exists, that exist in India that could do something similar, whereby platforms that unite or bring together fleets and drivers could also be the platform to advance technologies, training, create financing opportunities.
Yeah, so I think that's a very interesting point, because when we launched our vehicles in IKEA, the biggest resistance that we received is from the drivers. That was a surprising thing for us, right? Yeah. Because they are habituated to the vehicles with noise, right? The vehicle that gives them a feedback as they drive, but these are more like scooters, toys, right? I mean, no noise, nothing. They're not sure whether the vehicle is on or off, right? Not very confident of maneuvering through the ramps, etc. So the biggest the resistance we received is from drivers, and that is when, for example, Avan India started another vertical within itself called Avan Academy. Now the role of this Avan Academy is we mobilize the rural youths. We do not transform the existing drivers to electric drivers. We take the fresh youth from the rural India. We work closely with different state and central governments, and we train them, give them enough training and in terms of driving and handling this vehicle. And then we deploy them as special electric vehicle drivers, right? Yeah. I think this is something which we have started. Now we are planning to expand it to through the, I would say, to the technical aspect also, more as technicians and the engineers. That is what we are trying to do. And very recently, 3 states have launched their electric vehicle policies. That is Telangana and Andhra Pradesh and Delhi. And the interesting point is all these 3 states, to different margins of the significance, they have touched upon the point of reskilling, the manpower. So, and then those reskilling programs are incentivized by the government. Those institutes are incentivized by the government, so that the manpower is adequate and rightly skilled for the roles in the electric mobility, not just the drivers, but in the other aspects also. So I think we are on the right path.
Yeah, thank you. I'm told I have to wrap up. You know, if one thing would make me proud, that the race to zero starts in Asia and that we do this together. And so I'm hoping that following this session, we can set up some collaborations. I already see a bigger collaboration happening in India with their and China. We will certainly with Smart Grid Center be trying to take charge, and hope we can collaborate with both SLOCAT and ITF. I had one final slide to say thank you, but I'll do it verbally. Thank you to International Transport Forum, SLOCAT, to all the panelists. We have seen today Asia is taking charge of the race to zero, is going to take a leapfrog development in the area of zero emissions freight. My confidence rises on you to make this happen, and we will support you all the way. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Thank you very much, Sophie. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Sophie.
Thank you.